like and subscribe.
Ooh. That's a cock. This is a really good intro, man. I feel like this is better than mine. Yeah, it's probably a lot better. It's 28 too, by the way? Yeah, I know that, but this is a little bit different. Okay.
There's a whole lot of good in these Mysterios.
Ooh.
Oh, shit.
Hello? Is that General Mills?
That's good.
Yeah. We just did a 5-second joke about your product, and now we have no money because it was a very expensive 5-second joke. So, yeah, can we have a sponsorship deal?
Oh, that'd be a good idea. Mm-hmm. Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, that's me. Yeah?
Okay.
Well, fuck you then.
All right.
When the World Health Organization announced that addiction to video games would be officially recognized and classified as gaming disorder, there was much protest from the gaming community.
Before we do this video, I want to ask you guys, what do you think about that? Obviously, they're talking about gaming addiction disorder. Do you guys think that there is gaming addiction disorder? To me, I think that there is. Right? And like, yeah, there is. Like, how can you say there's not? I mean, really. Like, okay, so everybody agrees on this. See, I know that there was this big thing where, like, you had all these people on Twitter, right? The celebrity nerds talking about, oh, that's not true. Video games just bring people together and they make everybody happy. Give me a fucking break, okay, guys? Like, there are people that all the time forsake all of their real-life responsibilities for video games, and you're looking at one of them right now, okay? So don't ever fucking tell me that's not a thing, okay? I hate these celebrity nerds. Literally one of the most insufferable parts of the internet and being part of video game culture. The absolute fucking worst.
It is to games being the scapegoat for society's ills. At a time where video games are being blamed by self-serving Republicans for racially motivated mass shootings, the idea of gaming disorder rubbed many up the wrong way. Many who perceived the classification as an attack on the medium, yet another attempt to regulate, restrict, or otherwise infringe on an industry they loved. So let's look at gaming disorder, what that actually means, and why the World Health Organization definition isn't something to be angry or upset about, even if, at a surface level, the idea of a United Nations agency saying video games can be addictive may be perceived by some among you as a slight or a threat. The WHO defines gaming disorder thusly: a pattern of gaming behaviour, digital gaming or video gaming, characterized by impaired control over gaming, increasing priority given to gaming over other activities, to the extent that gaming takes precedence over other interests and daily activities, and continuation or escalation of gaming despite the occurrence of negative consequences.
They just explained at least every other 16-year-old that's in any first world country. Like, this is literally any kid. Like, think about this. All right, you can't quit playing the game. You just keep doing the game. You won't fucking do your schoolwork. Keep failing your classes. I don't care, Mom. I'm just gonna play video games. And you know, this is every other 16-year-old in the fucking world is like this. What do you mean?
To diagnose someone with gaming disorder, the subject has to show severe impairment to their social skills, familial relationships, education, and work life. Over an observed course of at least 12 months, the subject would have to demonstrate significant inability to function and interact healthily in the world. For those alarmed that the WHO, not that one, would classify millions of obsessive gamers as addicts sight unseen, it's worth emphasizing the extremity of impairment and the length of time that extremity is demonstrated. If you spend hours a day gaming but you still maintain a healthy relationship, have no trouble doing your work, or are otherwise getting along just fine, you're highly unlikely to be found within the tightly defined scope of gaming disorder. Addiction is defined in no small part as something that consumes one's life to the detriment of important needs and functions. In short, it's very, very hard for a lot of hardcore players to meet the requirements. The WHO, not that one, acknowledges how only a comparative handful of players would be considered addicted. Studies suggest that gaming disorder affects only a small proportion of people who engage in digital or video gaming activities. However, people who partake in gaming should be alert to the amount of time they spend on gaming activities, particularly when it is to the exclusion of other daily activities, as well as to any changes in their physical or psychological health and social functioning that could be attributed to their pattern of gaming behavior.
So basically, if you get fat and you play video games all the time, that might be a problem. Right? This is what, and I want you guys to understand this, this is what people were outraged about. Is that you can never, this is what I was saying before, you can never criticize weed, cats, or video games on the internet. You criticize any of those three things, people will go apeshit. Those three things, it does not happen. Like, you cannot criticize or say anything bad about those three things. Or dogs. Yeah, probably dogs too as well. Yeah, but maybe dogs. Mostly cats though, mostly cats.
Ultimately, what the agency's saying here is just good advice. Any pastime is worth the occasional self-checkup to make sure it's being engaged in healthily.
Yeah,
and this is advice the World Health Organization and others suggest for many, many things, not just video games.
Okay.
And none of this is just about playing video games for a long
Super
time
Mario World.
sometimes. Reactions to the gaming disorder classification range from disbelief to indignation to the question, why are video games being picked on? Why are they being singled out as bad? They're not. There's just a fundamental societal misunderstanding of addiction and what an addictive pattern of behavior says about the behavior being engaged in. Basically, something with the potential to addict is not inherently bad just because it can become addictive.
That's
The
why
Who,
heroin's
not that one,
okay.
is not trying to take anybody's games away. It's not saying at all that video games are bad, unhealthy, or otherwise not fit for public consumption.
Of course not.
Now, in many people's minds,
of course
addiction is tied inextricably to drug use, because it's practically the only form of addiction schools would educate children about.
What
in
the
school,
fuck?
you're taught drugs are bad, you're told drugs are addictive, therefore, things that can be addictive are bad. And when it comes to education about addiction, that's pretty much all you're told. This exclusive conflation is carried with us into adulthood. At least that's how it all was when I was a kid. And while I'd hope addiction education would be expanded in schools since the time I was there, I won't hold my breath. I mean, I swear all the textbooks I had as a kid were from the bloody 70s. Speaking of the 70s, at my school...
I remember that, like, you guys ever get a textbook? Like, because I went to, like, a really big public school, right? And, like, our textbooks, I could literally look at people that wrote their name in the textbook. I was in school in, like, the mid-2000s, right? Literally fucking 1984. Like, it's like, Bill Henry, you know, fucking signed this book out of the library in 1988 in December or in January for the second semester of junior high school, you know? Like, I mean, it is fucking insane, man. I had the exact same shit. Please explain why it looks like you smell... Wait, what the fuck does that mean? Okay, all right, I'm gonna go and look at this.
One of the most extensive lessons about drug abuse we got was the teacher sitting us down to watch The Cross and the Switchblade, and I'm not even making that up.
Hasn't there been enough killing and cutting?
You can't tackle a horde of the toughest gangs in New York with a Bible. They're liable to crucify you.
True.
I just want to say that there's somebody who cares about you people, cares about you very much.
You need Jesus.
In fact, he loves you, just like you are.
When he died on that cross, he was a man.
So we grow up being told drugs are bad, drugs are addictive, addictive things are bad.
Wait, was
so
that
I'm not surprised
See, this
that
is, as I said, dude, look at this right here.
Being told drugs are bad, drugs are...
Look at that. That's what scares me, dude. That's what scares me right there. You see that? Oh, man. Like, that, and that's in a fucking school, bro. Like, that's in a school, bro. Like, what the fuck? Like, man, I don't know, like, it's in a school.
Addictive things are bad. So I'm not surprised that when you hear about gaming addiction, some of you worry that people are saying video games are bad. Non-chemical addiction is often overlooked and misunderstood and not taken seriously. Sex addiction is often played for laughs in TV shows, often portrayed as the excuse used by horny perverts. Eating disorders are written off as greedy on one end of the spectrum and self-starving for shallow vanity on the other end. And more often than not, addiction is treated as if it happens in a bubble, as if an addict is simply an addict just because they got hooked on an inherently addictive substance. Addiction for its own sake. But that's rarely the case. Addiction doesn't happen in a bubble. There are links between addiction and depression that are so close they're practically sat atop one another. This goes for chemical addiction as well as non-chemical. Too often, people with mental health struggles will attempt to self-medicate with whatever they can get their hands on. Whatever distracts from their struggles, whatever lets them feel even the slightest bit different.
Why does he keep running that guy over?
For some people, that distraction becomes drugs. For others, sex. And for some, yes, it becomes video games. And if that distraction becomes a dependency, something someone feels they need in order to cope with their life, that's how an addiction can form. I know. I've been there. I've bloody been there. None of this is a universal truth, of course.
That's actually true. Sometimes whenever I have a bad day, I would literally go mining. I would go mining. That was the only thing that I would do. I would just be like, you know what? Let's go mine some shit. And I know that sounds crazy because it's a little dumb to do that, but there it is. I would just go sitting around mining. And you DC'd, man? I know. Still, no servers are currently available. I bet they're probably going to take the whole hour for this in terms of the fucking the not being able to play the game thing, right? So hopefully they're going to be able to get the shit sorted out. We are just sitting here waiting for the game to work, guys. We are sitting here waiting for the game to work. Put yourself in my position, okay? I am level 50-fucking-9, and I cannot play the game. I am pissed. I am fucking mad. I am so fucking mad. I am fucking so angry, dude, and that's all there is to it. But listen, let me go ahead. I'm gonna read. They're blaming on the Blizzard forums for the DDoS stack. I mean, listen, dude, if they're gonna blame me, who cares? Like, I mean, really, who cares? I mean, what are they gonna do? Like, nothing. They're gonna get mad? They already were mad. Who cares?
Different, their struggles are different. But nonetheless, addiction is not so simple. It's not just something that happens out of nowhere, and it's not always so easily solved as simply stopping doing the bad thing. The point is that if we understand the psychological reasons for dependency, we can appreciate just how many things have the potential to become addictive without necessarily vilifying those things in question. It's about the behaviors, not about the substance. Marijuana is, for example, often held up as an example of a drug that is not chemically addictive and not habit-forming. However, just because pot is not by itself habit-forming, it can nonetheless become someone's habit. It can nonetheless be overused. I mean, it makes people feel good in general.
Like, who doesn't know somebody, like, I don't know about you guys, but I know like 3 or 4 people, it's like their life revolves around smoking weed. Like, that's it. That's what they do. They think about it all the time. They talk about it all the time. They don't really have any other interests except for smoking it all the time. It is crazy, man. It is fucking crazy. I don't understand how anybody can do that, but, you know, I mean, I do the same thing with the video game, so fuck it.
Sometimes it makes me stare into an empty bag of Funyuns wondering what the hell I've been doing with my life.
It becomes a lifestyle,
but generally,
exactly.
Yeah, it alters your brain chemicals, it makes you feel euphoric, it can reduce your worries. You know, it's good fun for many people. But that also gives it the potential to be abused by those who feel that they need an external means of feeling good, which can lead to it being relied upon. And just because I recognise that, just because I realise that the pattern of using pot can be addictive even if pot itself isn't, it doesn't mean I want it to go away. I'm quite fond of it. I like to go to my local bar and get hammered every now and then. Many people do, and we still recognise that alcoholism is real, that alcohol can be abused, even if most people are able to interact with it in relative safety. I mean, bloody hell, you can become addicted to exercise, hooked on the endorphin rush and physically harming yourself after pushing your body beyond its limits to chase that rush.
Luckily, I don't have that problem.
Exercise is generally agreed upon to be a very good thing, not that I'd know. Now, the natural question one might ask at this point is, if almost anything can be addictive, why do we even need a specific gaming disorder? Why not just put it all under the umbrella of addiction rather than single out video games? This has a fairly simple answer. Different things are addictive in different ways. The way video game addiction plays out is
that
distinct
actually makes
from
a lot
the
of
way
sense.
something like workaholism
That
might
makes a lot of
play
fucking
out.
sense.
In order to effectively treat an addictive behavior, one must be able to accurately recognize how that behavior manifests. Playing video games to the exclusion of vital needs is quite different from tying one's whole sense of self-worth to their career. Even at a most basic level, gaming addiction might...
Well, the difference in your career is at least you get paid for that one, right? I mean, it's like... If you tie your self-worth to a video game character, you're not going to get paid for that usually. But if you tie your self-worth to a career, you know, usually you get paid for it, right? It's a little bit different, so people are more okay with it.
One's ability to work, whereas workaholism sees someone working way too much.
Yep.
And again, not even the Who Not That One is saying video game addiction is a widespread problem. It's simply saying that for some people, it is a problem. The estimated number of gaming disorder cases sits at around 3 to 4% of the billions of players worldwide. At that tiny estimate, only opportunistic scaremongers will...
Wait, what the fuck? That's a lot. Well, you got like 4%? That's like 1 in every 20 people that's playing video games is fucking addicted to them. You see like billions, like, oh, out of billions of people, only 3 to 4% of them are fucking addicted? That's millions. Don't you know what math is? Like, what the fuck do you mean? Like, that's like, what are millions of people? Holy shit. That's a lot, guys.
Worldwide. At that tiny estimate, only opportunistic scaremongers will try to pretend it's a common societal issue. Most of those idiots are too busy blaming video games for the existence of domestic terrorism. Fact is, it's not a common societal issue, and the Who Not That One itself states so. But just because gaming disorder affects only a tiny handful of people, that doesn't mean it isn't important. The number of people hurting may be small, but they are nonetheless hurting. They are nonetheless not well, and they nonetheless need our understanding and compassion. If gaming disorder affected literally one single human being on the entire planet...
I am so glad they never fucking thought of this whenever I was a kid. Because my mom was so into diagnosing me with things that were wrong with me. She was like, you have this wrong with you, you have that wrong with you, you have all these things wrong with you. And like, not like really, but she would always look into it, right, and think about it. She wouldn't like take me to the doctor or make me change anything because of it. But she was like just trying to understand why I did what I did, right? Because she was like, you know, she like psychology and like in college, she has like a degree in psychology and shit. I am so fucking glad that this shit did not come out whenever I was a kid, because she would be looking it up and trying to fucking characterize the way that I play the games and everything. I'm so fucking glad this shit did not happen.
Just one individual, their struggle would be no less valid for their solitude. They would be no less deserving of recognition and help. And that's why I can't condemn the existence of gaming disorder as a classification. People are hurting themselves playing video games. That doesn't make video games evil, it makes the people who are hurt deserving of treatment.
Damn. What the hell? What the fuck? God damn. What the fuck, dude? That's the gang life right there.
Much of what's going on around here.
Now, all this said, one must acknowledge the role certain video games do play in this. We must recognise that some video games are developed to be addictive. Hell, the word addictive is a bona fide marketing term in the game industry. How many games have been praised for being quote-unquote addicting in the past?
They should
The word retention is super popular at game dev conferences and talks because monetized games especially need players to stay within their systems and economies.
Of course the developers want people to get addicted to the game, right? It's like with WoW. If people get addicted to WoW, they're going to play through the shitty patches, so it doesn't really matter what they do. And that's the thing, is the more addicted you can get somebody to the fucking game, the more okay they're going to be whenever the game's fucking garbage.
What the daily login bonus in a game is all about. The idea of the gameplay loop, the comfortably repetitive pattern of in-game activities, is fundamentally based in forming habits, in keeping the player interacting with the product by encouraging a satisfying pattern of behaviour. And while this can be perfectly harmless fun in many cases, it can also be weaponized against the player by less scrupulous publishers.
Hook Habit Hobby. This is a model from Dmitry Dravanov. Flare games. It's a model for how people progress in a game. The hook is what gets you into the game to try out a free-to-play game. Then you build it into a habit that you play multiple sessions every day. Right. And then at the end, it's the hobby phase where
That's
people
all you do. That's all you
see
do.
it as one of their main hobbies, and they put lots of time and resources into it.
Resources being money.
Torolf Jernstrom, the industry's ugly reflection given human form. We've talked in the past about how certain so-called AAA game publishers are weaponizing addictive psychology to make money. Problem gamblers and spending addicts have been targeted and in some cases financially screwed by video games, enticing them into buying microtransactions and loot boxes. Only recently, 2K Games put out a disgusting trailer for NBA 2K20 that emphasized how fun gambling with loot boxes, slot machines and pachinko is. Literally, brazenly, almost insultingly linking loot boxes with literal gambling at a time when those links are being investigated.
Yo, we're gonna watch that afterwards. Remind me to watch that afterwards.
The sad fact is, a number of publishers, including Electronic Arts, Activision, and 2K Games, know exactly what they're doing and have known for a long time. I've spoken out against monetized addiction in the past, and having done that, I cannot go ahead and pretend the concept of gaming disorder
the monkey
is
has more teeth than I do.
Unbelievable. Not when publishers like EA, Activision, or 2K are out in the world. I dare say a number of unscrupulous publishers out there have been well aware for years that something like gaming disorder can be a thing and have banked on it as a potential moneymaker. After all, whales are how so many microtransaction-fueled economies make their money. The tiny...
What about the super whales? Remember that? Because like now the game developers, they're not happy enough with just whales. They're like, oh, oh, okay, we got another whale. Now we want to get a super... Now we're trying to get a super whale. You know, and that's somebody that's spending $100 a month. He spends like $500 a month on some dumbass fucking video game shit that doesn't even matter, right? On some phone game. $500 a month.
Handful of high spenders who drop hundreds or thousands of dollars on a single game.
Yep.
And they're not all rich people with cash to burn. Some of them are addicts being preyed upon. With that in mind, it's not just fair to accept gaming disorder as a reality. It's downright crucial. Before we go and I let you face yet another horrible week alone, I will do something I said I'd do more of and then forgot to do. So we'll do another one now, where I recommend an indie game, because doing a solo video on that game would tank the YouTube channel because no one cares to watch it. So today, I want to recommend, I suppose we'll call it a recommendation, but I'll just say game I played that I quite like. An indie game that I quite liked was Horace. Now, to talk too much about the story of this game is to spoil much that is best experienced by the player. But suffice to say, you're a little yellow robot. You look almost a little bit like a Lego person. Essentially, it's a platforming game. There is an interesting narrative woven throughout, quite sentimental in some places. The protagonist is adorable in many, many ways. And you run around this world collecting stuff. You're picking up trash around the world. And that's sort of the general conceit. But as you play, you unlock new abilities, the biggest gimmick of them all being the power to walk on any surface.
Okay, so I'm not a big one into like that. I've seen so many of these pixelated like Super Nintendo games that they don't necessarily compel me anymore. Servers are up. Okay, I'm gonna log on right now.